Yeah, these days during the pandemic, one of the things I'm thinking about is what can I do to help people? Because in the past, both in movies and a little bit in real life, I made a bunch of mistakes, learned from them. So now I'd like to figure out is there something I can do that helps a lot of people and that also uses my filmmaking knowledge and experience? So that's what I'm up to these days.
Cool. Commendable. I'm just trying to figure out how to quit my day job, have enough money, and yeah, become famous and rich as a filmmaker.
Cool. All those things are totally doable.
Hey everyone, take two. After I screwed up my
Woo!
initial uh, audio on my interview with Sujewa, who actually warned me before we even started rolling. He said, "Hey, like your microphone's really hot," and I think I turned it down. But then when I listened to it, yeah, I mean, I sounded like I was screaming, like the levels were peaking all over the place. It was a nightmare. But Sujewa was very nice about it. He decided to sort of do another take with me. Uh, Anyways, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Sujewa Ekanayake, the director of the Secret Society for Slow Romance, and who is now working on the Society, the Secret Society for Slow Romance 2, Part
Mhm,
2?
mhm.
Part 2? Is it going to be a musical like Joker?
No, it's the full title is The Secret Society for Slow Romance 2, Cosmic Disco Detective Renee, um,
Oh,
and the Mystery
easy to
of
remember.
Mortal Time Travelers.
It's so great. It's like it kind of reminds me of like, have you ever seen what was it like? Damn it, I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was okay. It kind of reminds me of like a B movie, but it's intentionally made to be that way. But it's
Mhm,
not really a B movie.
yeah, this won't be. I'll be using Cosmic Disco Detective Renee as the main title for promotional purposes, and
Hmm.
it'll be a comedy drama, primarily a comedy, detective comedy with some romantic comedy, similar in tone to Slow Romance One, but with more, weird detective character stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
showing
Well, that's
showing a hidden, previously hidden side of the Renee character.
wow. There's some stuff to look forward to there.
Very good. Yeah, I'm
So
showing different sides of each of the characters, and there's going to be two new characters, possibly an additional location. So yeah, most likely at least one additional interior location. Should be a fun movie. It'll be more of a straightforward comedy primarily.
For those who are unaware, who are the characters you're referencing from what movie that they could like maybe check out online to sort of get caught up on what we're talking about?
Yeah, the first movie, Sacred Society for Slow Romance, which we are talking about now, it's free on YouTube right now. Just Google, go to YouTube and search The Secret Society for Slow Romance, and you'll see the full movie. It's on there for a limited time, possibly until fall, possibly longer. We'll see. 769 people have seen it. Woo-hoo!
Wow, there we go. Let's keep those numbers going up. Let's keep them going up.
And like 70,000 plus people have heard about it through my Twitter and Facebook ads, primarily Facebook ads.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
they helped me too,
mm-hmm.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so there was one thing as I'm watching this, I'm always kind of like, yeah, how did you have a very unique voice
Mm-hmm.
where people will talk about things that are like rather obscene, such as, oh, I make a living by taking dick pics, and the character of of Allison, uh, she just
She,
sort of casually brings this up while
no, yeah,
I
no,
guess you
she,
guys come up with the idea of solving world hunger by
right.
having an indie fest, and it's like it's talked about in sort of this blasé manner where it's sort of it's satirical and it kind of knows as being that, but it's very relaxing to watch at the same time.
Well, dick pics are a mainstream thing now. I mean, anyone who's dating in the modern world, I mean, most likely the younger people, they share photos of their private parts. So
Hmm.
this is, with the digital cameras now. So it's it's just a regular part. It's like porn, I guess, but more DIY. No, she is. Yeah, she's doing a short film about a group of people who are, starting. Well, I don't want to give too much away, but a group of people doing something similar, related to dick pics. It's one of the jokes in the movie. But the starting an organization to end poverty worldwide, that is one of the more serious concerns in the movie. Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, it's just like real life talk. I mean, there real life conversations happen like that touch on sexual stuff and also activism, helping people type stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it's sort of things that you're passionate about, but you sort of introduce it in a way where you're saying, "I don't have the answers, but here's the problems, and here's sort of a way to sort of laugh at our own pain in a, in a sort of
It's
manner."
fiction. It's not necessarily things I'm passionate about. It's
Okay, well, things you think
fictional
about, I
story.
would say, right?
It's a fictional story, but yeah, I would
Yeah.
support a group that wants to end poverty. Sure, why not? That would be a great idea.
Why? I mean, who's not for ending world hunger outside of, the billionaires who keep the money for themselves? But that's a whole other episode.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
so
so the movie is fiction. It's scripted. Took about a year to write the script. It's similar to My Dinner with Andre, two New York
Mhm.
creative characters talking about a bunch of things. The plot is they go on during 2020, during the first year of the pandemic. Fall of 2020, two New York filmmakers go on several dates. They hang out, eat, talk, and they figure out how to end poverty worldwide. And it's a comedy.
Yeah. So the one thing I started watching Mystery Train actually last night. I'm like
Good,
46 minutes in,
awesome.
and yeah, I definitely noticed like Jim Jarmusch's like influence on your movies, sort of like the cool blue font title at the beginning of the picture, for instance, and then sort of two characters in the case of Mystery Train. It's these Japanese teenagers
Hmm.
just sort of going about life, talking about you know almost the same issues you talk about here, very universal ones, but in a very sort of a comedic manner. I'm gonna guess I could see how Jarmusch really starts to influence your stuff now. I started doing my own homework.
Hmm.
How do you usually interpret like his work and other people's work into your film while kind of just having it still be your own thing and not pulling and I'm not trying to discredit his work or anything, but not trying to be like a Quentin Tarantino making like a fan film or something like that.
Well, and Tarantino has his own unique, highly recognizable style. So
Exactly. Yeah.
I have my own style. This is my Slow Romance was my 10th movie. I think maybe the fifth fiction feature that I completed. So, and
Mhm.
each film is slightly different, but you'll see a lot of similarities in all of my movies. One short, couple documentaries, and all the fiction stuff. I'm concerned with lives of creative people, usually in cities, DC area or New York City lately. Last three movies are New York City. Plus, I do some movies about detective characters, like the werewolf ninja philosopher character and Sal Vulpes in Breakthrough Weekend. And but primarily, it's about creative people and their problems in cities. And yeah, and I keep notes on things and I talk about things that interest me. But the goal is to create something fun and interesting that would work for an audience.
Yeah, it always seems like either your protagonist or one of the other characters is directly related into the arts, which the movie stems from, which is like underground film.
Mhm.
What draws you to kind of keep making those characters? And I mean that in a way where it's like that's your thing, that's your style. Like Scorsese makes movies about gangsters, for instance.
Mhm.
What's it about yours that draws you to the artist and to tell their tale per se?
Well, it's working. I can, since I'm an artist, I can work off of my own life for starting points for characters, and it's sort of like documenting, lives of artists. It's an interesting group of people to talk about, and since they're in touch with so many other parts of life, that gives me a lot of flexibility. So if you have to make a movie about any group of people, artists are a good group of people to make movies about.
I was muted. No, I agree. It's sort of a thing that Yeah, a lot of my favorite movies are about people making movies. One of them that's like really overlooked, I think, is The Aviator that Scorsese did. Especially like the first act where Howard Hughes is making Hell's Angels and all that. You're like, oh my God, I
I didn't
didn't know
watch,
that this
yeah,
guy
I
had
need
like
to watch
30
that.
cameras and all these planes. Whoa.
Good, good. I need to watch it. I've only seen parts of it, but I haven't seen the whole thing.
Oh, it's so great. I thought like that was one of the movies that kind of got like robbed during the Oscars. Like but whatever. Scorsese got his Oscar in the end. But uh, one thing is COVID is a big sort of element in your movie. How do you think being creative, being active has helped you as an artist during COVID?
Yeah, the movie kept me busy. Making Slow Romance kept me busy, and yeah, and as you recall, in early part to maybe fall of 2020, everything was shut down. So that really kept me busy and gave me something to do. So that's always good.
Yeah, I mean, it was weird during COVID. I had to, if I kind of learned how productive I was, and I think that was sort of like the key. Like that, COVID was sort of like everyone's time to shine. Be like, okay, now that I'm locked in, it's either I'm just gonna, get drunk and smoke weed and play video games, or I'm gonna go out in the world and be active and do something I've always wanted to do but never had the time to do
Hmm.
it. But I mean, as an artist, though, you're able to support yourself in New York City, which is not cheap. But how did you end up sort of finding your path and finding your way over the years where you feel comfortable doing what you're doing and doing it where you are, instead of like having to go through the whole studio system thing? What turns you on to indie film and how it's shaped you throughout the years?
Well, I live cheaply in Brooklyn, in a relatively cheap part of Brooklyn. Less
Mhm.
expensive, but it's getting more expensive all the time. And I've always had day jobs. When I first moved to New York, I was working at Barnes and Noble, and yeah, if you keep your expenses low, you can live almost anywhere. Or if you keep your expenses low and you have some revenue streams, you can almost live anywhere and pursue filmmaking. And filmmaking is not too expensive anymore. You can shoot on your phone. You can shoot on a camcorder that you can buy for a couple of $1,000s and keep for several years. You just have to pay the actors some money so they can survive.
Yeah.
And especially the kind of movies I do, it's people talking, real people hanging out in the real world. It's not like we have. It's not like we have to build a giant avatar underwater set. Um, I've always been attracted to indie film because it one allows you to make movies. I don't have to wait 10 years to get the funding, and two, there's so many stories, so many characters, like the two characters in my movie Slow Romance that really have not been shown in the movies. So there's a lot of room for me to work in that space. Now I'm working on making the movies better known. That's why I'm promoting Slow Romance on YouTube. Get it out free everywhere in the world: India, Pakistan, Middle East, Egypt, wherever, Europe. Now, anyone who's mildly interested can easily check it out. And then I can monetize using blogs or, grants, donations. And then once people know about me and my work, and if they love it, when I come out with the next movie, they might buy it.
Wow, that is a long process. I'm guessing you didn't just discover overnight. It
Making
takes work.
movies since the early '90s. I decided right out of high school to become a filmmaker. I went to film school briefly at Columbia College Chicago. Then I did video production work in the DC area. Then I started making movies. First feature in 1999. So now I keep up with a lot of the filmmaking options, and I've launched a new Indiegogo, not Indiegogo, a new Patreon where once a week I'm going to break down grants information, filmmaking information, my own projects for donors, so that other filmmakers there's a lot of resources and a lot of opportunities out there that a lot of people are not exploring. So
Mhm.
other interested filmmakers and film fans and fans of my work will have something interesting to read. It's a Patreon / backslash Sujewa, Sujewa.
Yeah, send me the link. We'll put it in the information, and yeah, that's how I do it. Because I know I'm dumb brains. I'll forget and then have my audio levels go too hot.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I just started last night, and every Friday I'll have a post, and then we'll do more stuff as I learn more about Patreon. It should be a nice place to create a filmmaker community.
Yeah, you said your first feature was in 1999.
Yeah,
Uh,
1998 we shot it, and 1999 I released it at a local theater in Washington D.C.
what was it like making a movie in '98 compared to now? Did you just use like a camcorder, or did
No,
you
no,
like
no.
use
That
film,
was a
or?
16 millimeter.
Whoa, okay. So how is the process of 16 mil comparatively to digital? Like for
Much
you?
worse, much worse, much more expensive
Yeah.
and much worse. I don't recommend anyone shoot on film unless you're a studio or streamer backed, project where budget is not really a concern. Uh, Back in the day, I mean, the problem with shooting on film is it's much more expensive for an indie project still. We didn't have video assist, so I couldn't see what was being recorded until the footage came back from the lab.
Mm.
It's not a good way to work, especially if you're starting out in film. Shoot a lot of stuff on digital video. Get a camcorder or use. I mean, a lot of people these days are into using still cameras, but I recommend camcorders.
Yeah.
Probably the best tool, not the phones, not the still camera, but a good camcorder that can shoot for hours on straight without a problem. Sony XA50 is really good. No, Canon XA50 is really good, but there's
Oh, yeah.
Canon XA11, Sony MC88, and then XA50 or Sony NX80.
Or you could get like a Canon GH2, which actually is made for video, or I have like a couple Black Magics that I use for like live events
GH2
and
is
stuff like that.
like a DSLR type thing.
Yeah, it's a DSLR, but it's actually made for video.
Okay, got it.
So it's like the shape of a DSLR. It's a Panasonic, so like micro four third mounted lenses.
Mhm.
Although, I mean, I would like to attach something on one of my Black Magics, but they're like $500, and it's like
Yeah,
this.
the reason I recommend
Yeah,
camcorders for startup filmmakers who are new is that
yeah.
everything you need is in the camcorder. You don't have to worry about
Mhm.
lenses. You don't have to worry about this and that. Get a camcorder with an XLR adapter that's professional, high quality sound. You can attach an XLR mic to it. Then you're ready to go.
I'd say that's actually a really good recommendation because, like what you were pointing out there, I'm just thinking about my camera. I'm like, oh god, I still got to get this lens because that lens is too slow,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's like for a beginner, it's like no, they just want to be able to hit record and stop. If I was like, because I
exactly.
started making movies when I was like 12 years old or something like that,
Hmm.
and or 12, 13, something like that, and if I started like if I didn't just have like my, uncle's camera that I ran around, just have my toys just saying ridiculous shit to each other. Like those are like my first movies. I can't even repeat some of the dialogue. It's just like crazy shit kids say, like when they first discover swear words, and they're like,
Right.
yeah, but like the
Camcorders are
joy.
easy to use, and even for pro filmmakers, I plan on using camcorders forever.
Yeah. Well, it's like the funny thing is like I actually when I first worked in film, I walked away from it when I was around 13 because I used like a 16 millimeter Bolex camera, and it was just so cumbersome. And I'm like, I just want to make the freaking movie.
Hmm.
But it depends on the filmmaker's approach and everything too. It depends how they want the frame to look like. For instance, like a period piece with sweeping shots and you have millions of dollars. I'd always say go with film over digital because the way the image moves in and of itself, like you get those artifacts in digital where you
No,
just see
no,
a
no. I
little bit
think
of it.
in 2022, digital can do almost more than what film can do. I mean,
Oh, it can,
yeah,
yeah.
film is a type of film has a type of emulsion based look that can be mimicked on digital. I wouldn't I wouldn't shoot film for anything. Even I mean, if there was any, I mean, I really don't see a good reason to shoot film anymore. I mean, for
Uh,
nostalgic personal reasons, but look wise, you can what's a good example? What you
Let's say
call
Blade Runner, if it was projected in film or 4K, I think
really?
like yeah, you would have the
On digital,
nostalgic
I'm pretty sure.
emulsion, but it wouldn't like look as sharp as it does in 4K or 8K as they project it on screen.
I think Blade Runner was shot on digital.
The first one?
No, not the first one.
Yeah,
You have digital
yeah.
back
No,
then.
I meant the first one. No. The first one's digital and it looks fantastic.
Yeah,
Actually,
but you could do that look. You can imitate that look on digital right now.
yeah. Yeah, I you can, it just doesn't quite look that like, I saw Boogie Nights projected on there, at the Music Box Theater in Chicago, and
Mhm.
I've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood there, and I'm like, "Wow, I miss this way of there's just something, natural and emotional, like you said, that's beautiful, but again, it's dependent on the project,
It's a
and
collaboration.
really,
It's a collaboration.
it's Oh, no, that too, and which Marvel needs to learn how to use, which they finally did with, Miss Marvel. It's like, "Oh, yeah, there's Lumetri scopes. If I just drag this down, it looks better. Whoa!" Which I don't know how they didn't get that before.
Yeah,
But
you can make any digital project now look like old timey 35 millimeter film. Most
hmm,
audiences will not be able to tell a difference.
well, I did actually see a movie that sorta did that in that regard, where they told us, like, "Oh, no, we shot this on digital, and then, we just, like, went in post-production, toyed with it." I'm like, wow. But there was a whole there's this amazing bit. I think it was from this documentary called Side by Side, where um, Martin Scorsese was at this lecture that George Lucas was giving, and Lucas, said, like Scorsese hated the idea. It was like it's terrible. I'm not going to switch to digital. And then Lucas said something like, "At the end of the day, they're just tools that we use."
Mhm.
Of course, he's like, yeah, they are. Like, what? Why am I so against this? So, at the end of the day, it's the way of the future. Speaking of
Well,
the
it's the present.
aviator, the
I
way of
mean,
the future.
everyone's, most movies are shot on digital now, and
Yeah,
almost all video programs and television are shot on digital.
yeah,
I mean, it's been the present for a long time now.
yeah.
Film is an outdated format. No, hardly anyone uses it.
No, yeah, it's dying. I think there'll always be filmmakers who will keep it alive, but
Maybe
it's
we'll see. I
not.
mean,
Yeah,
I don't know. It's tough to keep alive because you need a lab to process it and then scan it
yeah.
so people can edit it. I don't know if on an industrial scale, if you could, at some point, it may we may already be at that point where it's impossible to support a large scale professional film or TV project using film.
Yeah. Yeah, it might go away because that is a lot of money that the studios have to spend, and I'm sure the execs are going, "Ugh, why are we wasting all this money on this?" And, like, I remember, you ever see Project Greenlight?
I did, but you have any questions about slow romance?
I do have questions about
Very
slow
good. Let's
romance.
get back to
Okay, sorry, sir. Yes, sir. No,
that.
no, I would say throughout the years, how has your approach to filmmaking changed? Is sort of what I was going with all this.
Oh, good, good. Well, each project is different. Obviously, after shooting the first one on first feature and the first short on 16 millimeter in 2001 or two, I shot a documentary called 17 DC Poets using digital video, old
Mhm.
timey digital video, and from there on, I was like, digital is the way to go. So I shoot digital, and uh, for slow romance, we did a very unusual thing, as far as filmmaking goes. A cast and crew of two, crew of one, myself operating the camera. The
Yeah.
mic was mounted on top of the camera, and it's just the two of us. So two people essentially made a feature. I had a friend come in and help Gene Ertl one day on some exterior shoots. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's unheard of. Hardly anyone does that, and we were forced to do it during the pandemic. But then I realized I like the results. That's a good way to work. Keep it as minimal crew and minimal cast as possible. Take your time with it. Do lots of takes. And we end up with a good end product.
Yeah, it's less cooks in the kitchen,
Right.
and sometimes I do get a lot of people like badgering me, and I'm like, look, I don't like because so you get a lot of those guys on set who are literally just standing there doing
Yeah.
nothing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then then it's like, oh, okay, someone on a walkie tells them to lock up the street or something like that. Which hey, PAs are important, but they are expendable at the
Well,
end of the
no, it
day.
depends on the type of project. But if
Yeah.
that's more of a that's
Larger scale,
more of
but,
a
like, even on
Hollywood
a
project.
small scale, I
Yeah,
meant to
Hollywood project.
say.
If you're shooting interiors and with people talking, comedy, drama. Keep it as small as possible. You don't need PAs for that.
Oh yeah, especially with the sound is a pain in the ass because people are just like ruffling on the wooden floors or leaning against shit, and then you got to deal with that the whole time. But I like the extremely minimalistic approach that you take to it. You kind of keep everything still colorful in the frame. You don't just shoot like a blank white wall. You do
Right.
like you kind of you try to make it look a little blank to keep the realism in it because the world is filled with white walls. Like there's no hiding that, but you have like little plants and other things placed in the frame to kind of give it a nice colorful look. How did you go about finding that look?
Oh, you just have to, like you said, you don't want to shoot, white wall after white wall. So when you design the shot, you look at production design, what to put in the frame, and then you bring things in and make sure it's in the frame.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good way to do it. So then you have to hit like record on all three cameras, and I'm guessing
No, 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 no.
you're
One
just
camera. It's a one camera shoot.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It looks so natural. It looks like there's like a master and then not even OTSs. It just stays focused on the character,
Hmm.
which is pretty nice. It's more because I'm tired of seeing OTS shots. It's not like George Lucas directing the prequel. It's going, all right, just use a
Yeah,
camera,
yeah.
a camera.
No, I shoot all my fiction features with one camera. It makes it easier to do, and gives me multiple takes from multiple angles. That is not of the same performance, so that I can find the best performance when I edit things together. So that slow romance is we shot a wide shot of the two characters, then we did another take of one of the characters and another take of another character. But we really did about 4 takes per scene per we've about 4 takes, 4 to 10 takes per page.
Yeah. And how did you develop the script? Because you said it took you about like maybe a year to write it or something like
Yeah,
that. If I heard you
I just wrote it the regular way people write scripts. Gathered the information, figured out what kind of goal I was going for, and worked on the
correctly.
dialogue and made it work.
Yeah. So how's like your first feature contrast with like sort of the work you have now?
I was thinking on my first feature, we had segments where the camera was riding around Washington D.C. in between, dialogue scenes, and that has pretty much continued in all my features, except a couple. Date number one didn't have it. Uh, Breakthrough Weekend had a little bit of it, and Werewolf had some of it. But yeah, so this, putting in a lot of shots of the exterior in between shots of the interior is something that I do, and that's continued since the first feature.
Yeah. So I noticed there's a lot of sort of representation in your movie. The food sort of serves as a cultural symbol, hence why the camera sometimes holds on it for so long. Nothing brings together cultures more than food. Like even if you're like a hillbilly from middle of nowhere, and then you come to like let's say Logan Square, in Chicago, like you guys could always find something in common just by our taste buds, unless you have
Mhm.
COVID and then you don't have them. Although I did get COVID recently and I did not lose like taste or smell or anything.
Oh,
But
good. I hope you recover.
oh yeah, it was literally because I had like 2 shots and a booster, so it was like
Good, good.
nothing for me. Yeah,
I got to
but
get my 3 and 4 shots.
you're down a shot. See, all right, so then you're
I got two
technically
shots. I
one.
didn't get 3 and 4 yet.
Yeah, I think 3 is what really helped me.
Good.
So, but yeah, but anyways, I guess where I was going with the whole food thing was how do you make like food sort of why do you interpret it as like a thing where people connect with? Like what made you say, "Hey, this should be in the movie?" Because I like it. Whenever I watch it, I'm like, now I'm hungry. For Indian food. No, I actually am hungry for Indian food now. Thanks.
Well, there are dates, people getting together to eat food and hang out. So that seemed like a good thing to show. I mean, this is what typically happens on dates. People go out and eat.
Yeah, so yeah, it's usually like yeah, it's a thing that I think everyone shares, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
cool.
You got to eat,
Yeah.
and we got and I actually worked it into the production. The food we were having were the production meals, so we didn't have to have a separate,
Uh,
food break. We would get the food, we would eat it, we would film us eating it, then I
Yeah.
would shoot the dialogue and cut around it.
Yeah, right. And you didn't have continuity issues with that or anything like, oh, this
I mean,
fork was over here, and
we plan things properly.
that's the way to go. I mean, that's a lot to balance at the same time. Do you ever find it a challenge to sort of film the scene and act in the scene and record the scene, or is it something that feels very natural and maybe freeing in a way?
Um, all filmmaking is difficult. You just have to get used to the system, and after that, you're okay with it. But yeah, you do have to stop, check the camera, check the sound, make sure everything is happening properly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, you filming it. Oh, sorry, I was going down my notes here.
No
Um,
problem.
so when you talk about your experiences to the masses to enjoy, since empathy is universal and there's nothing that emotionally connects human beings more than movies, do you really think, I mean, although it's done in a satirical way, do you think film, art, communication is a way to, art, film and art through communication, I should rather say, is a way to help people maybe solve problems like poverty and things like that and racism,
Mhm.
because film in a way does kind of help change our minds and it is our vessel to history, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, you could definitely use film or any other sort of a communication art medium to build organizations around, to promote certain ideas, and to bring people together and tackle big problems like poverty, climate crisis, corruption,
Mhm.
instability, all these major things. Anything that a lot of people can connect on can be used to help solve certain problems.
And what would you like your people to take away when they walk away from the secret society for slow romance, and then part two, forgive me, I could not remember the entire
Cosmic,
title.
Cosmic Disco Detective Renee. From
Right.
part one, hopefully they'll have a good time and see an interesting movie and have a enjoyable time. And the second item to think about is working towards ending poverty worldwide. I mean, even forget the world. I mean, at first, start with the U.S., right? I mean, it's
Mhm.
insane that the so-called richest nation in the history of the world has poverty. It makes no sense. We have a really messed up, gun problem, which may not be
Mhm.
related to poverty, but looks like a lot of the guys who are shooting places up are suicidal. So that's probably related to healthcare, and that's related to poverty. Healthcare
Mhm.
issues messed up here. Yeah, a lot could be done in the U.S. to improve, if not end poverty, improve quality of life for more people. And
Yeah.
a rich place like this could end poverty if we really wanted to do it.
Yeah, and to circle it back to filmmaking, the way we would do that is make movies that depict the problems in this world and how we can fix it. For instance, I have my mixed emotions about them, but I think Bowling for Columbine is a phenomenal film. Even if there's some areas that don't age quite as well, especially the whole Marilyn Manson scene. But it's like that movie made so many incredible points
Mhm,
that people could kind of say, well, look, this movie's saying what you guys in the media are doing. You drive racism and fear, and then people don't get the mental health that they need. And, for movies that could connect people who have, like, I used to have mental health issues, and one movie I would always connect to was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest,
mhm,
which I've read the book. I saw the movie. I don't think either of them are better than the other. They're all great in their own way, but filmmaking depicting all these sort of elements of the world together. You can find someone from another country or from another race, another value, anything, and you can relate to them. You can be in someone else's shoes, and through that sort of empathy and the power of filmmaking, you can actually maybe in some way solve poverty or hunger or whatever issue there is. Will it ultimately? No, but it's at least it's a good thought to have.
Well, I think you can ultimately, I mean, ultimately problems get solved. We used to have
Yeah.
cholera, and we used to have TB, we used to have all kinds of issues. So yes, ultimately problems get solved.
Yeah.
Mass media or a mass medium like film can 100% be used to solve problems.
Yeah, they can be, and they could also be a way to sort of relax. Because the feeling I get when I watch your movies is, oh, this is relaxing. This is nice. I'm
There you go.
just gonna sit here and enjoy this for a while. You
Awesome.
know?
Yeah, at least you can use movies to take a break from the ongoing problems, which will give you time to think about how to deal with various things.
Yeah, because we all need a brain break, and
Right.
that's why entertainment, like as much as critics like to go, "Bo, I don't," Marvel stuff, and Marvel's kind of like a slang term now in a way. And
Hmm.
it's like it does provide escapism
Hmm.
and some messaging, even if it's the same. I think critics sometimes just get tired because when you see like
Oh yeah,
100 plus movies a
yeah. I would
year,
hate
it's
it if
like,
I were
I'm
working
watching
on
this
all the
again.
movies. I would have hated
Yeah, yeah, but uh, so I think we've talked about a lot. I mean, we've covered a lot in 34 minutes. We talked about poverty. We talked about filmmaking, your approach to it.
it. And
This is good.
what did you like the shots of New York City? Did it make you
I
want to
did.
New York?
I did. I liked how they're like these little interludes, like in between, where you're just like, well, what's supposed to happen? Like nothing. Just enjoy the ride. Just enjoy the ride, and
There
then when the dialogue starts again, you'll have a good time.
you go.
That's my quote for the movie. That's my review quote. Enjoy the
Nice.
ride.
Awesome.
But
Glad you got to see it, and I'll send you the second one also. And
yeah,
yeah, and glad we did part two of the interview. And maybe one day I'll be in Chicago shooting a movie. Let's see.
that's right. Maybe you'll actually swing by the real bar, and we'll have the camera set up there and everything, man.
Let's do it.
Sujewa, take it easy, my friend.
Mike,
Again, if you want to find his stuff, his socials are in the information below.
okay, I'll email you some links.
All right, yeah, please do. But yeah, once he emails me the links and you guys see the finished product, it'll all be
Awesome.
there.
All right. Good
All
work.
right, man. Guys, remember, if you want to check out any of my stuff, go to ypareviews.com or just Google YPA Reviews. The YPA stands for You'll Probably Agree. Hopefully, we'll see you in the bar soon.